Welcome to the Thriving on Purpose podcast, where we teach Christian entrepreneurs how to build a strong foundation of faith, growth, and skill to lead and thrive on purpose in life and business. And now, here are your hosts, certified coaches Elisabeth and Sebastien Richard.
Welcome to another episode of the Thriving on Purpose podcast. And this is not just another episode. This is episode 10. We made it to 10. And okay, like it might seem like no big deals. I mean, there's podcasters out there who have 500. But for us, it's pretty cool because we're just starting out. And 10 is a double digit. So we went from single digit to double digit. And I feel excited about that. How about you, Liz?
Absolutely.
They're going to think I had too much coffee. But anyway, today we're going to talk about the 9 types of intelligences. And this is part of knowing yourself. I mean, it's obviously into the personal growth area, the personal growth lane. And there are some major benefits about knowing these 9 types of intelligences, as you'll see as we go during the episode. But some of the benefits are, for example, you'll get a deeper level of connection with others. Because when you know yourself better, you're able to verbalize yourself better. So others get to know you better, and therefore it really helps the relationships. It's going to help you to meet your needs better. When you know yourself better, again, you know your likes, you know your dislikes, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses. Therefore, you're able to meet your own needs in a better way. And also ask people, if you're married, you ask your spouse or people that you're working with to meet those needs in a better way and verbalize it in a better way and communicate in a better way.
Absolutely. And that's a very good point that you mentioned about meeting each other's needs in a relationship, because this is really important. If you don't know yourself, then how could you express what you need in a relationship? If you don't know what makes you happy, what makes you unhappy, all the different, things that a person goes through. A lot of people, I've seen a lot of couples go through years and years and years of not knowing each other. Like I'll ask a person a question about another person. Let's say I'll ask the husband a question about his wife, or vice versa, and they have no freaking clue.
Yeah, and they'll always go back to the same fights, right? Always the same fights.
And they'll have been together in this, routine kind of life for like 10 years, not really knowing each other.
Yeah.
And it's sad, because if you really know yourself and you get to know the other person, then it becomes a beautiful relationship, which is so much deeper and built on something really strong.
Yeah, and I don't want to give some advice here for young couples listening to us. Our pastor, when he gave us premarital counseling, he said for the first year of marriage, you guys should not have a TV in the home, or if you do, almost not watch it, okay? Avoid it like the plague. And he said, here's why. Because the time you spend in front of the TV, you're not spending getting to know your spouse. And that first year is crucial, when you really get to know each other in the nitty-gritty and the routine and the likes and dislikes and all that. If you're less distracted, and today, like back in the day, we didn't have iPhones, the internet was starting, of course, but it wasn't as big as today, so it wasn't as distracting as today. So all these electronic gadgets can really play havoc on our relationships. I'm just saying that, just a little parenthesis here.
Absolutely. So another benefit of knowing yourself is reaching your full potential.
Obviously,
right,
yeah.
Sebastien?
No, yeah, absolutely. So as you grow into self-knowledge, and you can even say self-mastery in some ways, because you become a master at the school of yourself, basically, you will be able to reach your full potential. How can you possibly reach your full potential if you don't know yourself? Like I said before, your strengths, your weaknesses, your likes, your dislikes, your potential, everything about you that makes you, that will enable you to flourish, has to do with your self-knowledge. So if you don't know yourself, well, you're pretty much handicapped in that area.
Exactly. And also, I think an important point is, the 9 types of intelligences. When you discover these intelligences, you realize that God really did, make people very, very different. And we all have different strengths and different things to bring to society, right? To make the world go around. Yeah. So this will help you see people in a different way.
In a different light, yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know if any of you have felt like I have felt. Sometimes I've been in social gatherings and I felt like the dumbest person in the room. We're all talking with people, entrepreneurs.
And depending on the conversation, right? I mean, obviously, if they talk about something you're really comfortable with, that you really know, you feel like one of the smartest people. But if they're talking about a lane that you really, has nothing to do with who you are, then you feel really stupid. I know I have. I mean, depending. I don't have anything off the top of my head because I'm really, really smart. but
sure.
But I know I've been in those situations, and I know everybody has. I mean, it's happened to everybody. Even the smartest people I know have found themselves in discussion areas where they just weren't comfortable because that wasn't their strength, right?
Well, it's actually funny because our kids oftentimes will ask us, who's the smartest? Is it mommy or is it daddy? We have young kids. We have 3 kids.
And of course, it's always me.
Sure, and then I laugh. So I have a 3-year-old. We both have a 3-year-old, Caitlin, a 6-year-old, Marissa, and Jason is 9. And so they're always questioning and wanting to figure out stuff, right? And one of the key things is who's smartest, mommy or daddy, because they see us as entrepreneurs talking about a lot of topics, and we're very knowledgeable, and they're starting to see that we're knowledgeable but in different areas. So we always tell them it depends on the area that we're discussing.
Yeah.
Because we've learned without knowing, before we even knew that 9 types of intelligences existed, we could kind of decipher, hey, Sebastian's really, really strong in this and theology and, has a really good grasp on different topics, and he's smart in this and he studies in that.
And when it comes to health and wellness or
mom's
other
smarter
areas, mom's definitely smarter there.
In the, psychology, emotional IQ and emotional EQ and different things like that, and health, like he mentioned. So Jason comes to see me when he's hurt, and and Jason will come to see Daddy when he wants to know something about animals and Bible. Or
That's funny. I mean, and Jason, our 9-year-old, it was funny this morning because he said, "So what episodes are you guys gonna tape today?" I said, "It's episode 10." He says, "Really, 10? Wow!" And then he said, "So what are you guys gonna talk about?" "We're gonna talk about the 9 types of intelligences." He said, "Really? That many?"
Exactly. So to get back to our topic, probably you felt inadequate, maybe you weren't cultured enough when you were, discussing different topics around the table, maybe around Christmas time, or maybe in a, office occasion where you're talking about all kinds of different things and interests. And you just feel like you have to run home and read 10 different books on marketing or on whatever topic they're discussing because you feel like you don't know enough about that topic, right?
Unless you're really, really secure with yourself. Which most of us are really good at, right? Like as human beings, we're very secure and independent and strong.
Right. So by understanding how the 9 intelligences work, this will enable you to understand your intellectual strengths better and to leverage them.
So basically, you're smarter than you think. Isn't that good news? But the other good news is that other people is not as dumb as you think also. Isn't that great?
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of funny, but human nature is a certain way, and we do tend to judge, even if we're Christians and we're not supposed to judge. We do kind of,
those who don't have the same intelligence area or the same intelligences as us, we see as dumb. That's the reflex, a knee-jerk reaction, I guess you would say, right?
Yeah. So,
and it's wrong because it's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, and you'll see in the 9 types of intelligences, there's 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 degrees, right? There are some people that are very, very strong in a certain intelligence. And if it's really an intelligence that you know nothing about and you don't understand at all, you're going to feel completely different from that person. Like you're going to feel like this person lives on another planet, right? Yeah. So this is why understanding this can help you to not judge people as much, because then you'll kind of see it differently.
Yeah, you won't judge yourself, and you're not going to judge others as the same way either.
Exactly, because you'll understand their areas of strength and you'll respect that. Mm. So where it is really interesting for me is when you're trying to build an effective team. So when it comes to team building, a lot of you are in different businesses that you have teams, you have people working with you, or maybe you're trying to build a team in network marketing or another profession. And this is really important to understand these intelligences, because then you can really maximize the efficiency of your team. So you can use those different intelligences and, really
put the right people in the right place, in the right function or the right role on your team.
Exactly. So that will help you to put their strengths into action, and that way your team will become way stronger, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Sebastien, can you tell us a little more about the book, The Theory of Multiple Intelligences by Howard Gardner?
Yeah. Well, so Howard Gardner is the professor, the doctor, who wrote the book, Frames of Mind, The Theory of Multiple Intelligences. He wrote that book in 1983, so it's nothing new. Most of you might not have heard about the 9 types of intelligences, but it still was written back in 1983. But when it came out, it revolutionized the field of quantitative intelligence, or more commonly known as IQ. So there's a quote that Gardner said. Here's a quote. According to Gardner, while we may continue to use the words smart and stupid, and while IQ tests may persist for certain purposes, the monopoly of those who believe in a single general intelligence has come to an end. Brain scientists and geneticists are documenting the incredible differentiation of human capacities. Computer programmers are creating systems that are intelligent in different ways, and educators are freshly acknowledging that their students have distinctive strengths and weaknesses. So it's with that premise that Gardner came up with, initially was 8 in the book, types of intelligences. He also mentions 2 more in the book. So, and those 2 more, there's one that kind of made its way more into official territory, and the other one kind of stayed back. So that's why we boiled it down to 9 types of intelligences. The problem that we have today is that, well, not just today, but for years and years, when you went to school, you had basically 2 main lanes of knowledge, right? And the 2 main lanes were languages and mathematics. And those were the 2 main lanes where people were tested and scored on. And that kind of made schooling very painful for many people. Because for some people, their main intelligence just wasn't in one of those 2 lanes. So there's a little picture that I have here in front of me. It's a caricature. You have a professor that's at his desk, and he says, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. And in front of that professor, there's a robin, there's a monkey, there's a penguin, there's an elephant, there's a fish, there's a seal, and there's a wolf. And he says, so you all have to take the same exam. Please climb that tree.
Good luck.
And good luck. My money's on the monkey, by the way. But here's the thing. Our schools are no different from that. Although it's a caricature, unfortunately, that's basically how our education system has been working for so long, without taking into account the different types of intelligences. So that's why you have so many students who end up quitting on school altogether, or saying, you know what, school is just not for me, because maybe they have, kinetic intelligence, bodily, what we call bodily, and we're going to get into that later. But like for the sake of illustration, in those animals there, there's a monkey, a penguin, a bird, an elephant. Which one is going to be good at the test of climbing the tree? Obviously, it's going to be the monkey, right? But if it was like, smash the tree, well, the elephant would win that, right? So everybody has different strengths. And although we're all human beings and we all have a brain and we're all made similarly the same on the outside and on the inside, the soul and our intelligences and how God has framed us is so varied. And that's the beauty of mankind, basically, is that we have all these different gifts and abilities and talents and intelligences. And it makes for a really nice symphony. But if we try to get everybody to play the same tune, we're going to have a big mess.
Yeah, and that's why there's so many problems in schools with different kids that have different types of intelligences, because they just don't know how to teach them in a way that they can understand, because they can't adapt. So that's what he was explaining in his theory, is that he doesn't want everybody to change the whole program academically, but there is a flaw there, because it is concentrated on linguistic intelligence and logical, mathematical intelligence, and there's the other intelligences that are neglected.
There you go.
So, and
you might have a musical genius who fails as a result, because he not fails, but you might be struggling all throughout schooling.
Yeah, and that's why you hear stories of entrepreneurs. Some of them quit school, some of them, did their schooling but had very, very poor results in a certain area, and very, very high scores in another area. So that's where we see all of that come to life, right? So can you tell us a little bit more about the linguistic intelligence?
Yeah, we're gonna dive right into it, because we have 9 to cover, and we're already pretty far off in the podcast. So let's just get down to it and cover the 9. We're just gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 9 and give you all the juicy stuff about each typical intelligence. So the first one is linguistic intelligence, also known as word smart. Linguistic intelligence is the ability to think in words and to use language to express and appreciate complex meanings. So linguistic intelligence allows us to understand the order and meaning of words and to apply meta-linguistic skills to reflect on our use of language. So linguistic intelligence is the most widely shared human competence and is evident in poets, novelists, journalists, and effective public speakers. So people with this kind of intelligence enjoy writing, reading, telling stories, and you've probably met a few who like doing crossword puzzles.
Exactly. So I'm just going to give you a few characteristics of linguistic intelligence so that you can identify them. So perhaps you enjoy writing. Perhaps you are good at editing. Maybe you're an avid reader. You use fancy words. You enjoy word games. Maybe you love to speak about what you read. Maybe you remember quotes, likes puns and rhythms. Enjoy foreign languages, love English class.
Yeah,
those are just examples.
These are all examples. And there's also possible careers for the high linguistic intelligence. Could you tell us about those, Liz?
Yeah, so a few mentioned here are copywriter, court reporter, editor, journalist, lecturer, broadcaster, newscaster, speech pathologist, teacher, translator, interpreter, and writer.
Yeah, these are just examples. And of course, we're talking to entrepreneurs, so don't take these careers as like, oh, I got to go in the career path now. I got to stop this entrepreneur stuff. That's not what we're saying. We're just giving you the lanes of application of this intelligence by giving you the career paths, the possible career paths. And we think it really enlightens when we go into the characteristics and the possible careers to really pinpoint more vividly the image of, okay, yeah, I think I know a person like that, or I know myself, I'm like that. So for example, the linguistic intelligence, I recognize myself quite a bit in that one. So the number 2 is the logical mathematical intelligence. So you see, we cover the first 2, which are the 2 lanes that are mostly used in our public education system, right? The linguistics and the math. So number 2 is logical mathematical intelligence, which is also known as number, or reasoning smart. So logical intelligence is the ability to calculate, quantify, consider propositions and hypotheses, and carry out complete mathematical operations. It enables us to perceive relationships and connections and to use abstract, symbolic thought, sequential reasoning skills, and inductive and deductive thinking patterns. Logical intelligence is usually well developed in mathematicians, scientists, and detectives. Young adults with lots of logical intelligence are usually interested in patterns, categories, and relationships. They're drawn to arithmetic problems, strategy games, and experiments.
Exactly. And a few characteristics of logical intelligence would be rational, objective, good at strategy games, maybe like numbers. You seek precision, grasp complex data, factual, logical, good at math, appreciate science. I actually went to school with a person that was that had a very, very strong sense of logical, mathematical intelligence. And there's
It was the life of the party, by the way.
There's different degrees. That's what I was telling my husband. Some of you are like, oh, I'm really good at math, but this might not be. There's different percentages of. You can be a combination of two.
And in the resources, we're going to recommend a test. Also, people can go to a page where they can do the test.
Exactly, because you can be a combination of 2, 3 of them. Some are what we call mathematical geniuses, right? So they are like really a very, very high percentage in this category. And oftentimes these people are really, really good with numbers, but they're a little more dry in nature of personality. And that's what I was telling him. We're kind of laughing about it because in high school, I sucked at math. I wasn't very good at math. And they put me with this guy that was really, really good in math to explain a few things. And I was just trying to have a conversation with him before we started the tutoring. And he was so dry, like he couldn't make one joke. It was like really funny. So when I read this,
it must have been, you're making me uncomfortable. Let's just get back to the numbers now.
But he was so smart when it came to mathematical intelligence. The guy probably became an architect or something.
Yeah. So, speaking of careers, could you go down the list of careers for logical intelligence?
So some are accountants, computer programmers, engineers, financial planner, lawyer, attorney, mathematician, medical doctor, military officer, scientist, technical writer. So those are just a few. Like we just took a few from the resources we had, but there are more than that, obviously.
Yeah, those are like, we're giving you the broad view, but of course you can narrow it down more and on your own time and your own research, because this is really a fascinating subject to delve in. Maybe not for everybody, but we think the information is valuable for everybody. So, number 3. The number 3 intelligence is spatial intelligence, also known as picture smart. Spatial intelligence is the ability to think in 3 dimensions. Core capacities include mental imagery, spatial reasoning, image manipulation, graphic and artistic skills, and an active imagination. Sailors, pilots, sculptors, painters, and architects all exhibit spatial intelligence. Young adults with this kind of intelligence may be fascinated with mazes or jigsaw puzzles, or spend free time drawing or daydreaming.
So a few characteristics of people that have visual intelligence. They notice colors and shapes. They can visualize anything. They enjoy geometry. They love to draw and paint. They enjoy photography. They appreciate books with pictures. They are good with directions. They remember places vividly. And they are good at artistic composition. So what are the possible careers of high visual intelligence? Well, architect, art director, artist, computer animator, fashion designer, graphic designer, interior decorator, photographer, video editor, and web designer.
All right. And now for number 4, bodily kinesthetic intelligence, also known as body smart. Bodily kinesthetic intelligence is the capacity to manipulate objects and use a variety of physical skills. This intelligence also involves a sense of timing and the perfection of skills through mind and body union. Athletes, dancers, surgeons, and craftspeople exhibit well-developed bodily kinesthetic intelligence.
Absolutely. And also I want to mention here when we talk about this specific intelligence, a lot of people that have ADHD, whether adult or children, oftentimes are really, really good.
Kinesthetic learners.
Yeah, exactly. So our son has ADHD, and we learned very early on when he was in school, actually before that, even in preschool, one of the instructors, one of the people working with him said, your son has ADHD, but he learns very well by touching, by learning as he goes, by experiencing what he's learning at the same time. So a lot of these kids learn well by touching things, they're very sportive, they're very active, they're very physical, and that is why we realized as we were teaching him that oftentimes visual explanations or him doing the action to understand what it is that we were trying to teach him. And now it's really cool with social media, with the internet, that we're able to show them. So sometimes he'll ask me, how do we do a certain thing? I don't understand what you mean by blah, blah, blah. Then I can actually look for a tutorial or something on YouTube to show him exactly what I'm talking about. And then he gets it. He's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So...
and he also has a lot of energy.
Exactly.
Kinesthetic learners are very high energy people. Like we mentioned in the list, athletes and dancers. These are high energy people, usually.
Yeah.
And when they have that much level of energy, sitting down on a school bench for many hours at a time to listen, that is not their bent. That's not how, they're not going to be comfortable with that. So what they've remarked, just as a parenthesis here, with kids with ADHD, is that they're basically just high energy kids, and you just send them out running and playing hard, and then you sit them down. You're going to see they're going to sit down with the other students and listen. That's most of the time that's what helps them out.
Yeah, and so more and more schools are adapting to understanding this way of learning, that some of the kids actually need to, have special benches where they kind of move at the same time as they learn. Some of them have these balls where they
fidget spinners.
Yeah, fidget spinners and squishy balls they need to squish while they're listening to the teacher. So the same thing applies for a lot of adults, and that's why I want to mention this, because I do research and I do listen to a lot of the ADHD community and articles, and I read about it, and they talk about it for adults as well, because a lot of adults are starting to be open to understanding what it is, especially sometimes they don't realize they had it, because back in their day it wasn't very popular talking about that. No one knew what the heck it was.
It was just a troublemaker in class.
Yeah, no one knew what, or a slow learner, or exactly a troublemaker that just talk too much and move too much and whatever. So when their kids get it later on, then they realize that, oh, okay, there's something there. So I actually did research because I wanted to know if I had it, because it said that it could have been hereditary. So I thought it's interesting as we go through this, because if you are an adult that think you may have ADHD, then you might find yourself in these different characteristics and stuff. So,
and before you go on, a good way to know if you're not a bodily kinesthetic smart person, if you were picked last in gym your whole life, chances are you're not very good at that. Like I was picked last in gym for a very long time, and when I read about that, I was like, nope, that's really not me.
And I was the opposite. I was really good in gym. So. Okay, so I'll get through the characteristics of kinesthetic intelligence. So they learn by doing. They are well coordinated. They're good with their hands. They enjoy sports. They seek excitement. They are very active. They are crafty, So all you people on Etsy, doing your Etsy shops and building your business by making things and working with your hands, that's another indication. They are energetic, they enjoy the outdoors, and they are very athletic. So the possible careers mentioned for high kinesthetic intelligence would be actor, actress, athlete, carpenter, construction worker, farmer, firefighter, park ranger, mechanic, paramedic, physical therapist. So oftentimes we find these people more in what we call, some refer to blue collar jobs.
Or they like
jobs
working with their hands a lot.
Exactly, with their hands. So that makes us understand. So, I know there's a lot of negative, in the entrepreneurial world, there's a lot of negative talk about, blue-collared people. But it's not because they don't have your type of intelligence that we should, discredit them or
hey,
think that.
I know plumbers who are millionaires, so it's really not a.
No, but that's what I'm saying. When the discrimination comes with the intelligences, automatically people for many years couldn't explain it. But the white collar was considered the intelligent one. The blue collar one was considered the dumb one that could only work with his hands. So
yeah, but when the white collar's car breaks down, guess who's the smart one then?
Exactly. So, there's smarts, and there's also people that are not very smart, but we're talking about the areas of intelligence. And some of these people are really, really good at working with their hands and have made successful businesses and careers of doing just that.
So basically what you're saying is it's not because you're working with your hands that you can't be an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you can be a quite successful one at that. Number 5, musical intelligence, also known as music smart. Musical intelligence is the capacity to discern pitch, rhythm, timbre, and tone. This intelligence enables us to recognize, create, reproduce, and reflect on music, as demonstrated by composers, conductors, musicians, vocalists, and sensitive listeners. Interestingly, there is often an effective connection between music and the emotions, and mathematical and musical intelligences may share common thinking processes. Young adults with this kind of intelligence are usually singing or drumming to themselves. They're usually quite aware of sounds others may miss.
Exactly. So a few characteristics of musical intelligence would be highly auditory. They can memorize songs. They have good rhythm. They notice off-key notes. They enjoy different sounds. They like to sing. They whistle. They tap their feet. They are talented with instruments. They are gifted at composing music. They are sensitive to noise. And the possible careers for high musical intelligence would be choir director, composer, conductor, disc jockey, music teacher, musician, record producer, singer, songwriter, studio technician.
Yeah, just us, me, and Elisabeth. She's got that going on. Me, I can't even sing in tune, one note. I flunked music in high school. Yeah, can you imagine that I flunked music? That's embarrassing. I'm embarrassing myself. I'm just going to go to the next one. Number 6, interpersonal intelligence, or commonly known as people smart. Interpersonal intelligence is the ability to understand and interact effectively with others. So they play well with others. It involves effective verbal and nonverbal communication, the ability to note distinctions among others, sensitivity to the moods and temperaments of others, and the ability to entertain multiple perspectives. Teachers, social workers, even actors, and politicians all exhibit interpersonal intelligence. So people with this kind of intelligence are leaders among their peers. They are like leaders of people here, okay? They are good at communicating and seem to understand others' feelings and motives.
Yeah, absolutely. So a few characteristics of interpersonal intelligence. They are extroverted. They enjoy social events. They love crowds. They are empathetic people. They enjoy teaching others. They have many friends, enjoy team sports. They counsel others. They love meeting new people. They are sensitive to others. So when you're in the marketing sales world or in network marketing, this is the type of interpersonal intelligence, people smart person that you will notice. So most of these people that have a very high percentage of people smart, like you call this, are very, very good at sales.
Yeah.
So they have this natural ability to get to know people, to talk to them, to, sell their product, to really get in their heads and really get to know them. And they just love being around people, and they can just go up to anybody that they don't know at all and just start a conversation.
Yeah.
So we've noticed that in different businesses that we've done in the past, how these people really, really do excel when it comes to marketing and sales.
Yeah.
So if you're like that, then chances are that's one of your areas of strength, and you're going to have a very successful business doing marketing and sales. So possible careers for high interpersonal intelligence would be, they wrote clergy, counselor, diplomat, politician, public relations, receptionist, sales agent,
There you go.
social worker, supervisor, and teacher.
Number 7, intrapersonal intelligence, which is also known as self-smart. Intrapersonal intelligence is the capacity to understand oneself and one's thoughts and feelings, and to use such knowledge in planning and directing one's life. Intrapersonal intelligence involves not only an appreciation of the self, but also of the human condition. It is evident in psychologists, spiritual leaders, and philosophers. These people may be shy, but they are very aware of their own feelings, and they are self-motivated.
A few characteristics of intrapersonal intelligence: they are intuitive, they are self-aware, they spend time reflecting, they like to learn about themselves, reading books about, emotions and understanding how they function. They're very philosophical, they're independent, they enjoy journaling, so spending time alone, writing. They work well alone, they are usually introverted. They're interested in self-employment. So a lot of
they
them
make good entrepreneurs, huh?
A lot of them are entrepreneurs doing their own thing.
Surprise, surprise, huh?
Working from home.
Because me and Liz just happened to be, we did the test and we rated quite high in that. So it's just funny.
So the possible careers for high interpersonal intelligence would be entrepreneur,
Hello.
Historian, inventor, librarian, philosopher, psychologist, scientist, theologian, and writer.
That's my kind of people. These are good people.
Don't start.
I think I'm biased. I'm gonna go to number 8 now. Number 8, naturalist intelligence, also known as nature smart. Naturalist intelligence designates the human ability to discriminate among living things, plants, animals, as well as sensitivity to other features of the natural world, so clouds or rock configurations. It continues to be central in roles today like botanist or chef, which is highly surprising. When I read that, I thought, oh yeah, it's true. They are good at making nature into better things. I like how a chef can put it in a plate and make it look really yummy. Anyway, it is also speculated that much of our consumer society exploits the naturalist intelligences, by which they can be mobilized into discrimination among cars, sneakers, kinds of makeup, and the like. So what does that mean? These people who have naturalist intelligence, they care about where things come from and what they're made of, how they are made, and the impact they have on the environment. So I thought that was very interesting, especially since we live in a society that really more and more caters to that and makes it makes such a big deal about it. The nature
there's
and
a huge
the
green
importance of the
movement,
environment. The green movement, exactly. So basically, I don't know, is it the chicken or the egg, right? Is our society creating more naturalistic intelligences, or are they coming out of their shell more because of how our society is?
Right. So from a marketing perspective, because it's such a huge movement and there's so many people that are awakened to that, there are people that will definitely not buy a certain product if they know
If it was tested on animals, or
it was tested on animals, or that they know that a certain plant produces this and causes tons of pollution. That's why there's some people that really care about the environment that will prefer buying a car that's a hybrid that doesn't consume as much gas, and those electric cars and stuff. So through the years, marketing specialists have seen the movement, and they have seen that people that are naturalist intelligent understand this, and that's their target market. So I think that from a marketing perspective, when you're in business, if you're working in a health and wellness niche and your company has very, very strong foundations of green foundations, and they're very natural, and they pride themselves in the materials they use, that they're saving on energy, they're saving on water, they're saving on all kinds of things. These are points that you need to mention to your clients, to your prospects, because there are people that are very strong in this intelligence, that it matters. It really does matter to them, and they will prefer buying a product from you, knowing that your company is making the environment greener and healthier, and everything's better.
I've met people who turned down high-paying jobs during the interview because they asked key questions that for them were really important about the company.
Right.
What do you do with this? How do you recycle? Blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. And because they didn't like the employer, the response they got from the employer, they just upped and left. Mm-hmm. They just like, no, this is not for me. They turned down the job just because of that. And on the other hand, there's types who really don't have that intelligence. It reminds me of a joke. I heard a radio host one day. He was talking about how he was so tired of going to the grocery shopping and always being asked at the end by the cashier, paper or plastic. So one day he was at the cash with his wife, and the cashier goes, paper or plastic? And he goes like, that depends. Which one is more dangerous for the environment? And the cashier looked at him like weird and went like, well, plastic. And he went like, well, alrighty then, plastic it is. And his wife wanted to kill him, but I just thought it was funny. I just wanted to pitch that in there.
Yeah, so he was really fed up of the naturalist.
But he was not. He definitely didn't fit in that type of intelligence for sure.
So the characteristics of a naturalist intelligence would be they notice natural patterns, they learn through natural contact, they are upset by pollution, they are comfortable with animals, they are good at gardening, appreciate plants, appreciate scenic views, inspired by nature, enjoy outdoor activities, aware of weather changes. The possible careers of high naturalist intelligence would be animal trainers, breeders, farmers, park rangers, geologists, landscapers, marine biologists, veterinarians, zookeepers, horticulturists. I'm sorry if I'm not saying
horticulture. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that either.
In French, horticulture. In English, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, hunters. Surprisingly,
well, yeah, I think we should include those. Right?
Yeah, because they have the thrill of the hunt. They
love nature.
They love nature. They love being in nature. And even if some of you may be vegan and don't approve of eating meat, those that do and that are hunters really love to be in nature and love animals, but they love them to eat them, right? So
they love them to pieces.
Yeah, they love the meat that it provides, but that's a strong indication that they care about nature and
There you go. Yeah. No. So I
it's
think
just
it's
a different
smart.
angle. But
I think it's smart to include hunters in that, although it's not really a career, but it could be in some ways. But yeah, because most hunters I've known, they love nature, and when I say love, I mean they could spend their lives in nature. That's how much they loved it. So obviously they have that kind of intelligence. So even though
they know
some people
everything
might-
about every animal and
it's
everything
crazy.
and
and
that
it's,
there is to it.
and just they light up when they talk about it. So even though they end up killing the animal in the end, that doesn't mean they don't have naturalistic intelligence. I thought we should make that distinction.
Right.
Number 9, existential intelligence. So I just want to say here that Howard Gardner did not include it. How can I put this? It was more like a fringe intelligence that he put initially. He had 8, but when he put it out more and more, he developed it without really officially adding it to the list. But some people saw it and they went like, we're going to use it, we're going to run with it. So whoever would reproduce his content or share it would add it, because, and I think it's smart to add it, because absolutely I think existential intelligence should be there. Right. So number 9, existential intelligence, or also known as philosophical smart. So people with existential intelligence have a sensitivity and capacity to tackle the big questions about human existence, such as where we came from, the meaning of life, why we die, and the chief end of man. This intelligence may also be linked to the spiritual sphere, where knowledge of the divine, the paranormal, and even mysticism come into play. And I want to make a short parenthesis here. We are a Christian show, and yes, we do not endorse the New Age and stuff like that, but we're trying to differentiate between the different types of intelligences. So yes, obviously, any kind of spirituality would be included in that, even if it's not one that we might agree with. Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah. So existential intelligence involves individuals' ability to use collective values and intuition to understand others and the world around them. People who excel in this intelligence typically are able to see the big picture. Philosophers, theologians, and life coaches are among those that Gardner sees as having high existential intelligence.
Right. So a few characteristics of existential intelligence would be reflective people. They think deeply. They enjoy abstract theories. They appreciate theories about human existence. They meditate or pray regularly. They are more religious or spiritual. They are inspired by the unseen. They do not shy away from deep conversations. They are not adverse to thinking about the afterlife.
I have a small little anecdote here. Once I was maybe 38 years old or something, and I was at a table. We were at a family gathering, and I was with 2 aunts who are older. They were about close to 80 years old, and we were talking about death. And I mentioned that I just so happened to think about death quite regularly. I don't know if it's because I'm Christian or whatnot. They weren't believers, by the way. Well, they were more like deists. So they were Catholic. Yeah, they were Catholic deists. And
specify he not thinking death like I'm going to die, but like
the
what
afterlife.
Happens after we die. And
the questions Christians
ask ourselves.
But the question at that time was more like thinking about my own death. How's it going to happen? How am I going to die? When am I going to die? Or and trying to picture myself how I would face to that reality when it comes. And they were 80-year-old women, and they looked at me like I was coming from Mars or something, and they said, you think about death? You're 38 years old? And I was like, yeah. And they said, I never thought about that. I mean, I just started like 5 years ago. I'm like, what? Like I couldn't even conceive that they never thought about it, because it's such a big part of our lives. I mean, that's where we're all going. And to me, it made no sense. But, looking back, and when I read the existential intelligence thing, it made me see, what? It's not everybody's bent, obviously, because these ladies said they lived their whole life basically not thinking about death. And I thought about it quite regularly. I mean, I wasn't obsessed with it by any means, but I thought about it.
Yeah, so the like we were saying, the philosophical person will, you meditate and think about all kinds of things that have to do with the unseen and the afterlife, and that's just something we all, I guess, we're more prone to thinking about it being Christians because in church we bring up these topics, right? So it those that don't think about it kind of forces them to start thinking about it. So
and it can scare them sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people are so not bent towards that when you do start to tackle these big questions, they're gonna like shy away from it and go like, "No, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this," and they kind of freak out or something. You're like, you feel like you offended them or something.
Yeah, I've known a lot of people like that live in the now. That's what I call it. So they live day by day, every day, and they don't think about what's going to happen in 6 months and a year from now. They don't think about things like that. So, like we mentioned earlier, there's people like if you're, talking to others about God, well, people that are inclined to spirituality, even if it's not the spirituality that we practice as Christians, some people are into meditation, they practice yoga, they do things like that, trying to get closer to a spirituality. These oftentimes are people that are more open to Christianity because they are searching to figure out what's out there and where is God and if there is a God and all that.
It's actually surprising. Yeah, I've had some interesting conversations with New Agers who were more open to Christianity than most atheists would be,
Yeah, and sometimes it's easier to convert them because of that, because they're more open and there's basically searching for answers. And the New Age movement has become so big that a lot of people just don't even think twice about Christianity. They just move into that movement. So the possible careers for high existential intelligence would be theologians, like we said, people that are into yoga instructors, people that are teaching meditation. Obviously, we don't approve of these.
Yeah, we're just going down the list. We're not endorsing these careers, by the way, and we're not telling you guys to pursue that. We're just going down the list, okay?
Exactly. So just so that you can notice them. And like I said.
And maybe categorize them a bit more.
Exactly. And if you're somebody that really has... that really has at heart to talk to others about God, and you want to convert people and bring them to Christianity, then you can try these places, because oftentimes these people are open to hearing about what you have to say.
And I knew a pastor who had a real calling to talk to New Agers, and he would go to esoteric expositions, and he would just like go from table to table and just like share the gospel there, because he really wanted to connect with these people.
Mm-hmm. And some are pastoral counselors, some are chaplains, some are public speakers, some are philosophers, some are part of a clergy. So all these different careers are all people that have philosophical smarts.
Yeah, and obviously like Christians, I think because we have the Holy Spirit, it might open up your existential intelligence to some degree, because there's a mystical aspect to this intelligence that the others don't have. Mm-hmm. So the spiritual, more mystical aspect, of course, through the workings of the Holy Spirit, I would say, gives most Christians a higher existential intelligence than the regular folks out there.
Exactly.
And I think that's a given.
Yeah.
So we did it. We went through 9.
Yes, so we hope that this helps you to understand the different types of intelligences, so that you can, use them in the workplace. You can understand them when you're having conversations. Hopefully this makes you also feel smarter in the area of intelligence that you do fit in. And like we said, we do have a resource for you. So if you go to our site, thrivingonpurpose.com, and you click on this podcast episode 10, there will be a resource for you with all the show notes, with the study that we did. So if you want to teach it or give a course on it.
Yeah, it's valuable. It's a valuable resource for that. If you want to share it as a course, like Liz just said.
Exactly, and you can go deeper. There's also going to be a link to a test that you can do. Like we mentioned, we both did a test, and we saw that there's more than one test. There's the 9 types of intelligences, but there's also the different types of way that you learn. So the different learning.
It was an excellent test.
Yeah,
it was really
the different
thorough.
ways that we do learn. And so all these really helped me as well to understand where my areas of strengths are. I actually found this a better test than other tests that I've done. I've done Finding Your Strengths. I forget the name exactly. I had done that years ago. And there's another one that I had done also that was more entrepreneurial, that was recommended, and it was based,
you had to pay for it too.
Yeah, you had to pay for it, and I found out only later that it was based on Chinese philosophies and stuff, and it did not help me because it was
neither.
because they basically boiled down people to 4 categories, and it was really hard to understand. Like we had some of this and some of that, and it was so confusing that at the end of the test I said, okay, we paid for this, and honestly, like I didn't understand my strengths. It was very confusing because they put me in a category based on certain questions that I answered that wasn't really my area of strength. So it was just a few things that I mentioned that I answered. So this is why I'm saying this test
It's free, first of all.
It's free, and we'll put it in the resource section. So when you go download the resource, you'll be able to have the link to do the test that is free.
Yeah.
And you'll really see a percentage of your strengths and what category, and it'll help you to get to know yourself better.
Yeah.
And also, I found this was a really good study because it helped me understand the kinesthetic learner, his type of intelligence. So for my son that has ADHD, it helped me understand a little more in depth of how he learns and how what he likes. And then all of the things that I knew about Jason so far, because he's only 9, kind of came in my head and kind of made more sense, right? And how I'm supposed to teach him and how he's learning. And so I hope that this helps you. So share the podcast with people that you know will benefit from it. And you can go on thrivingonpurpose.com. On the front page, you can sign up to have the latest episodes. So we'll send you that straight to your inbox. And you'll also get the resources if you click on the podcast episode itself, click on the show notes, and we'll have the resource waiting for you.
Yeah, downloadable PDF format.
Exactly. So this concludes the 10th episode. We wish you a great week and see you next week. So thanks for listening. Be blessed.
And thrive on.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving on Purpose podcast. Be sure to visit thrivingonpurpose.com to access the show notes and to discover more fantastic content. Until next time, be blessed and may you thrive on purpose.